Okay, hopefully you can all hear me. My name's Rob Bentley. It's almost 1 o'clock. We will get officially started right at 1 o'clock. But for now, just want to make sure you can hear me. And I see a thumbs up there, so that's good.
I can hear you, Rob, and I'm going to be your facilitator for today. But it doesn't look like you have waiting room enabled, and I think you'll be all right. I might pop out to go check the other sessions, but let me know if you need anything.
Okay, sounds good. All right, well, it is 1 o'clock. I'm gonna just right away, in addition to welcoming all of you, I'm just gonna go ahead and share my screen. And show you where you can get some materials that go with this session. So this is the conference Canvas account or Canvas page, okay? And if you browse down, of course, this is the session that you're in. You probably know this better than I do. This is probably how you got to the session today. But if you click on the link to go to the session, in addition to the link, the Zoom link, there's also another link. It says materials for this presentation can be found here. So you don't need to click that now, but if you want additional Adobe Spark resources, that's a good link to save. You know, if you click that link, it'll take you to this page that I made. It's got the presentation that I'll be showing. It's just a really short presentation. And then, you know, after we go through this short presentation, we're just going to be looking at Adobe Spark and Utah's Online Library and how can we bring these two great tools and resources together, and some of the projects that you can create, that students can create using these two great products. Underneath that, there's a list of useful links. Some of these come from Adobe and some come from UEM. So, but I think it's nice to have them all in one place for people that are brand new to Adobe Spark, or that just, if you just want to learn more about it, maybe you already have used it. But I tried to bring together some of the key resources and links all to this page. There's also some tutorials. One for each of the main Adobe Spark tools. So if you click the link, it'll take you to YouTube. And I just selected some tutorials by some really good YouTubers that go through step by step, really, how to build an Adobe Spark video, an Adobe Spark page, and an Adobe Spark post. And we'll talk about what those different tools do and what they are in just a minute. For those that may not want to go back to the Canvas page to get that link, I'm also going to post it into the chat. So if there is a Zoom chat for this. And I see Chris has posted a great invitation there. It says, for those in the service center regions, we're happy to come do a school training with your teachers and students for follow-up. So you've got some support, you know, to learn more about Adobe Spark. And of course, UEN, we have things that we can do to provide that support as well. So at this point, I'm going to switch to the short presentation, and let's just go through. First of all, I'll introduce myself, and then we'll go through what is Adobe Spark and why should we consider using it. So my name is Rob Bentley. I'm from the Utah Education Network, UEN. Sometimes we call it UETN. They're both the same. And I've been at UEN for 13 years. So I've been there for a while now. Before coming to UEN, I was a Spanish teacher and also a language arts teacher in Granite School District. And I loved our media specialist at the school I taught at. We worked together very well, and really appreciate her and also all of you in the jobs that you do. Since I've been at UEN, probably the last 10 years, one of the highlights that I've gotten to do is to work with a lot of teachers on using Adobe Spark. And lately, it was about 2 or 3 months ago, I was given the assignment of being the Adobe specialist at UEN. And so going forward, I'm going to be even more involved with Adobe Spark and also all the other Adobe products. So I'm excited to have the opportunity to present to you and hopefully have a conversation with you using the chat. And also feel free to unmute if you have a comment or a question. I would love to hear your voice as well as we consider how can we use this resource that's available. Okay. So this for me, hopefully you can see these two pyramids. This for me is why I think Adobe Spark is particularly beneficial. And I try to keep these two pyramids in mind in almost everything I do in education. This is Bloom's taxonomy, right? We have the old version at the left and the newer version, the updated version of Bloom's taxonomy on the right. And, as we know, at least as a former Spanish teacher, I certainly value all of these things, right? I think remembering is important. If I can't remember how to say yellow or blue or green or store or mountain, if I don't remember how to say those words in Spanish, that's kind of a problem if I'm trying to be fluent in Spanish. So I think remembering is very important. But the higher you go up this pyramid, the more, in some ways, beneficial it is for the individual, right? It's one thing to be able to remember something. It's another thing to be able to create a poem out of those words that I remember, or to evaluate something based on the Spanish that I know. And so, while all of these may be important, as educators, a lot of times we're trying to push our students to do some of these things toward the top: analyzing, evaluating, creating. And with this new version of Bloom's taxonomy, synthesis, which was the second on the list of the pyramid, was moved to the top and renamed creating. Any thoughts from you on why do you think creating is considered to be such an important thing to be involved in, and such an important endeavor for students, but I think also just for humans, right? Any thoughts on that? What might be particularly beneficial or special about creating something rather than memorizing it or understanding it? It's important to understand, but creating, why do you think that it's toward the top of Bloom's taxonomy? Feel free to unmute and make a comment, or you could post in the chat.
Well, I think it's because that's the whole point of learning things, is to be able to use it into your life and do something with it.
Yeah, I do think that creating something with the knowledge that you've learned, it does kind of manifest the knowledge in real life, right? Like now something exists that before it was just in my mind, or it was just an understanding I had, but I've created something with it. I think there's something special about that. In the comments, I see Jolene says it's a better brain activity, right? I think it involves more thinking, right? In a lot of cases. Creating allows you to be actively involved. That's true. You can sit there passively listening and you may understand and you may remember, but if you're creating something, you're by definition, pretty much, you're actively involved. You're making something or doing something to create that. So those are wonderful comments.
I think it goes back to what Brandon was saying this morning about when we actually do something, and those slides that he showed, that when we do something, we learn it better. And in our discussion, we had a lot of discussion about, well, what can I do for the kids that's going to be more of an activity in the library? And rather than just having kids come in and fill out worksheets or do, rote memorization type of things, where they can create and do things just like this. So I'm excited to see this, but I think it's spot on.
Yeah, thank you. Really good comments. Appreciate everyone sharing. All those that shared their ideas in the chat or out loud. So the tool that we're gonna focus on today, it's really 3 tools. It's Adobe Spark, but there's 3 different types of projects really that you can create using Adobe Spark. And at UEN, we have a web page dedicated not just to Adobe Spark, but to all of Adobe. This is the address, uen.adobe or uen.org/Adobe. And I was just recently given, I guess, power over this page. So we're gonna revise it, and it's gonna become, I think, much more useful. There's gonna be videos on there with updates, and also like how to use Adobe Spark and other Adobe tools. So I hope that you'll jot this down. I mean, it is included in the material, so you don't have to write it down, but I hope you'll keep this in mind and check into it. It's gonna get better, but even right now, it's got some useful information and links about the Adobe tools. So Spark, speaking specifically about Spark, it can create 3 different categories of projects. You can create graphics, web graphics, so just images or memes. We can also create a web page using Adobe Spark. And it's one of the easiest tools for creating a web page. There's lots of options out there. You may have heard of Weebly or Google Sites, but those are more for creating a full website. Adobe Spark page is for creating one web page, and it's quite easy, and yet the results are beautiful. The third option is video. You can use it to create narrated video slideshows, and we'll look at that as well. I see a good suggestion there in the chat from Chris. I'll take that into account as well. So thank you for that suggestion. So here are some examples. 2 of these are examples that I created. Okay, so here's an example of web graphics. Okay, and for most people, I think many people that look at Spark, they don't get very excited about Adobe Spark creating graphics or memes, because there's so many other tools that you can use for it to do that. But Spark makes it particularly easy to create attractive looking web graphics. Okay, so and maybe my example isn't that attractive, I don't know. But this is a banner that I made for an online Spanish class, okay? And this took me literally like 3 minutes to create. And I think it looks pretty good. It might be a little busy, a little bit too much color, but I kind of like it. And it shares kind of that fun aspect that I would want to have in relation to my class. So that's an example of a web graphic. Even though the web graphics option isn't that exciting for many people, I find that that's the one of these 3 that I use the most. Maybe it's because I teach a lot of online courses, but I make a lot of graphics using Adobe Spark Post. So we'll look at that later in the presentation. Another example, this is an example of a web page that I created. So I've lived in Utah my whole life, except for some time in Chile, where I learned Spanish. But I had never been to Bryce Canyon as an adult. As a kid, I must have gone with my family. But a few years ago, I took my family. I've got a pretty big family here. And we went to Bryce Canyon, and it was just a wonderful experience. Afterward, I made this web page using Adobe Spark page. So you browse down the page. You can add buttons. I added this button to the official Bryce Canyon website. You can put picture galleries. You can add videos that will play right in the page. And then in addition to those kind of basic things, look at what else. This is a special kind of photo gallery. It's called a glide show. And I don't know if you can see what's happening there, but basically it's 3 or 4 photos stacked on top of each other. And as people browse down the page, it shifts from one of those pictures to the next, to the next. It's just a beautiful effect, I think, if you want to show multiple pictures that are kind of similar. You can browse from one to the next seamlessly. Like I say, I think it's a beautiful effect. And then the last example is a narrated slideshow. This one I did not make, but I think a school counselor made it, and it looks like they may have moved it since I taught this last. But it's basically a presentation for students, helping them understand the new SAT test. Okay, so I hope that you'll think about, what are some ways I could use these resources? Could I make a web page that would benefit the students that I work with? Could I make a video to introduce different features of the library, or how to use the library, how to get around the library, what the procedures are for checking out items, whatever it might be. And graphics, are there some graphics that you could generate and print, or that you could post on the school webpage to help people learn about what you do? And then also, in addition to just using this as educators, what can we have our students do? Thinking back to that Bloom's taxonomy, what can I have my students do with projects and things that would get them creating? Okay. So let's look now at a couple of examples. Okay, this is of other examples. I did not create this, but this is Charlotte's Web. It's a book trailer created by, can't remember if this is by a student or a teacher. Sounds like a teacher, but this was made using Adobe Spark Video, and just uses text, graphics, photos, and voice. You probably can't hear the voice. It's playing in my earphones, but the teacher is narrating this slideshow. Okay, so that's an example of the kind of video that you can create. Here's another one. So at this point, I'd like to jump into looking at the actual Adobe Spark interface and how we can start using this. Now, the first thing I would say is, when it comes to Spark, there's two ways you could choose to access this. At least for most teachers in Utah, there's 2 options. One is to just go to spark.adobe.com. I'll put that in the chat. I mean, it's just what I said, spark.adobe.com, but I have added it to the chat as well. And when you get there, you could sign up for a free account. I used Spark with a free account for probably 10 years, 8 or 10 years. Well, right now I don't have to use just a free account. I get an upgraded pro account, basically, and I get that for free. Why? Because UEN partnered with the Utah State Board of Education, USBE, and Adobe, and we got a license for every teacher, kindergarten through 12th grade. You can get an Adobe Creative Cloud account, and that includes a free upgrade to the professional version of Adobe Spark. Okay, so that's one option. The thing is, your school or district needs to have opted in to that, and I don't know if your district or your school has opted in. So that's something to check on. I mentioned earlier that we have a website on our on UEN. And I'll paste that in the chat. That's all about Adobe and something called Adobe Create Utah. This is where your school or your district would need to go in order to sign up. There's a link there that says how to participate, and there's an agreement that the school or district would need to, they'd have to agree to it, and then the funding or the access would be granted, for the school or district. Does anyone know for sure that you do have access to this through your school? No? Okay, so that's something to check, because there's no additional charge to your district or your school. It's just all covered. But your school or district would need to have someone agree and start that process. And they can have help from UEN. If you need help with this, we can put you in touch with people that can help you. All right, so that's one way to access Adobe Spark. But honestly, if you just sign up with the completely free account, you still get access to almost everything. There are a couple of differences. One is that some of your creations will have a watermark. There will be a little watermark saying Adobe, made with Adobe Spark. Okay, but there's no need to wait for the school or district to sign up. You could just start now with the free account. When you do sign up to use Adobe Spark, I would highly recommend that you use your professional email account from your school. So, whether it ends in .edu or .org or whatever your school's email address is that's tied to your job, to your career, that's the one you would want to use to be able to access this. Okay, so I'm going to go in and I'll just click Start Now in the upper right. This is spark.adobe.com, and it takes me to a page with a list of projects that I could create using Spark. Now, this isn't comprehensive, right? Like, there's so much more that I could do beyond this, but it's kind of focusing on things that the students might relate to. So Instagram story, Instagram post, Facebook post, a collage, things like that. You can see even more, and there's a button to view all. And this will give you lots and lots of options, projects that would help grow a business, that would help you study or teach, champion a cause. It's almost too overwhelming, for me when I look at this. So let me show you what I do. I'm going to go back home. Whenever I'm about to create a new project in Spark, I log into my account and I go here to this plus sign and I click, and it's still kind of overwhelming. There's like 10 things listed here. Well, even though there's 10 things listed here, there's really only 3 Adobe tools. I still like to think in the terms of tools, right? Not projects. We're going to get to projects, but I just like to focus on tools at first. So there's 3 tools. There's the web page tool called Adobe Spark Page. There's Adobe Spark Video, and there's Adobe Spark Post, which makes graphics. I wish they had all 3 together, web page, video, custom graphic size, but that's okay. So I'm going to start with video. I'll just click there on video, and it takes me to a screen where I can create a title for my video project. Okay, so let's take the example of the book talk or the book trailer. Just like you go to a movie and you see previews or trailers for other movies. What about a book trailer? Okay, so let's see. The book I just recently read was on coaching. I want to pick something a little more fun, I guess. Maybe Ender's Game, or let's see, The Giver is a book that I read that I really liked. So I'll just call this The Giver book trailer. Maybe I'll put a dash in there, and then I'll click next. So at this point, Adobe Spark wants to be able to kind of coach me through the process of creating my video. And this is really nice, especially for students, right? Sometimes a student doesn't know how to get started. They just, I know I need to make this book trailer, but I don't know what to do first. So that's why we have these templates. So what's the purpose of this Spark video that I'm creating? Is it to promote an idea, to tell what happened, the hero's journey, show and tell? And there's other options too. I kind of think show and tell is a good fit. So I'll click pick this one, and it opens up with a slide. Okay, that's going to be my first slide in this slideshow. Here's some tips. I'm going to close out of the tips, but you could watch those later if you want to. Okay, so here's my slide. This is slide number 1. And I want this just to be, you know, an introduction to the book. If you look down here on the timeline, because I chose show and tell, it's encouraging me to start by talking about myself. So about me, okay, now what it is, why, show it, how, and these are just prompts, okay? And it's these prompts because I picked the template for show and tell. So I guess I will start with about me, might as well. So I'll just, I'll click to add text, video, photo, or icon. So I'll start with text. So Rob Bentley's book trailer, okay, video, something like that. And I could also, in addition to text, if I wanted to, I could click on this plus sign to add a photo, okay? Now, one of the nice things about Adobe Spark is all 3 of the tools have this great photo feature here. It often gets hidden, but if you click plus and photo, it'll appear here at the right. And I can use this to upload a photo that's on my computer, or to take a photo using my webcam in this case. But my favorite option, even more special to me than Dropbox or Google Photos or all of these cool features here, is this one, find free photos. So I can search there, and I'll just do a search for book. And I'll just click on book. So now I've got a picture of a book, and it's Rob Bentley's book trailer video. Now, one thing just to be aware of, book PNG. Okay, it didn't work. Sometimes you can add PNG and it will make it so that it's got a transparent background. It didn't work this time. Okay, but that's okay. I think this looks pretty good. So now I want to record my voice. I want to narrate this slide. Now, I'm not sure if this is going to work well because I'm using my earphones as my microphone as well. And I'm talking to you through Zoom. So I hope this works to also record using Spark. Here we go. Hi, I'm Rob Bentley, and this is my book trailer video. Okay, so I'm hoping you can still hear me, even though I recorded that. So now I can push play to hear back what I recorded. I don't think you could hear that, but I could. Sounds good. And I noticed that it added some music too. It automatically added a background song to go with my voice, and it sounded great. So I'm done with slide 1. I can just click here on what is it, or what it is. So now that's slide 2. So for slide 2, I'd like to introduce the book, The Giver. So again, I'm going to go with photo. So I click on photo, and I can do a search for The Giver. Now, I figured that might, that might not give me the results I'm looking for. Why? Because it's searching Pixabay and Unsplash for royalty-free images, right? So I probably need to get a picture of The Giver, take a picture of it with the phone, or maybe get it from Bing or from Google, and of course cite my source, etc. But I could just add that photo here as well and add text. Now, one thing that some people love about Spark and some people don't appreciate about Spark is that it only has a few options for how you present your information. What I mean by that is this text, the giver, what about a different font? You know, maybe I don't love that font. Could I change it to a different font? Well, yeah, there are some ways to do that, but you don't have the options that you're used to in Word or PowerPoint, where there's 1,000 fonts. You know, you can underline, you can bold, italicize, all of these things. Spark reduces the number of decisions that you have to make so that you can focus on the actual content and presentation. So, you know, as a designer, when I'm designing something or creating something, I don't always appreciate that. But as a teacher, I do, right? Like when I'm teaching Spanish or whatever, I don't really want my students focused on the slide animations and the text. I mean, that's important, but more important is the content, the Spanish, the math, the science. So honestly, I'm okay that there's not 500 options. Instead, there's just a few. So let's look at the few that we do have. If I select the text, you can see I do have text up and text down to make it bigger and smaller. I can also click and drag to move the text to the left, to the right, to the top, to the bottom, or in the center. But you can see, like, what about just a little to the left or just a little up? No, those aren't options. You have to be in one of those 5 places. Oh, I guess lower left. Yeah, so there are a few other options, but it's definitely locked into certain spots where you can put the text. Okay, there is also one other place where you can adjust the font type, and I'll show you that in a minute. Just like before, I could click to add a photo. I can also add video if I want to, but the video has to be short. They have to be 30 seconds or less. Not your video, you know, not my narrated slideshow. That can be very long. For one of his school projects, one of my sons created like a 40-minute Adobe Spark video on history, and it was awesome. But anyway, you can make really long videos, but if you want to include someone else's video, you can only show 30 seconds or less of their video. Any thoughts on why that might be? You know, part of it is storage, right? Adobe Spark doesn't want to store, you know, tons of photos, but I think also part of it is copyright, right? So if someone wants to use a professionally produced copyrighted video, you know, this limits them to 30 seconds of it, which makes it much more likely to fall under fair use, you know, guidelines. Of course, it's still the teacher or student's responsibility to make sure they're following copyright and fair use, or fair use, you know, principles. So, but anyway, that is an option. I can click on video and upload a video that's on my computer, and then pick the 30 seconds that I want to include. Okay. Again, I can click this record button to record my thoughts or my comments. My book trailer is on The Giver, a pretty short book that I really enjoyed, and I hope that you will read. Okay, so you get the idea. I would just continue this process of going to the next slide, adding photos, adding text, adding video maybe. There's also icons. So if you click on icons, you can see it remembered that I was looking for books. So you can put in some of these nice icons as well. If you decide that you would like to reorder your slides, it's as simple as clicking and dragging on the timeline. So you can see how easy that was for me, and just click and drag, put it in the order that I want. It's beautiful. Now, sometimes people say, okay, when I show this, they say, all right, this is nice, but what if I don't want my text to cover the picture? What if I want them separate? Well, that's very doable, okay? So for example, on this slide about the giver, I can just, instead of going with the default, which was to have either text or a picture or an icon, or have both but have them overlap, what you can do is go over here to the right and choose layout. For me, it was already on layout, and you can go to split screen. Okay, so now I could put in an icon of a book or whatever it might be. I'd like to show the cover of the book, The Giver, but anyway, you get the idea. Now I have a split screen. I can click this button to quickly swap the two. So it's kind of nice, but again, Spark is limiting my options so that I can focus on the content. You know, there's no option for dragging that book a little to the left, or, you know, I can move my text, but there are some limitations here. But like I said before, I'm fine with that. It helps me focus on the actual content. I could add captions, okay, but that's a different layout. When I click on caption, it's a different layout for my screen and my slide. And then there's title and text. Okay, so I'm going to go with split screen for this one. Okay, let's look at another thing you can do, because I need to wrap up this part of the presentation pretty quickly. There's another thing that you can do to adjust the font and the style of your Adobe Spark videos, and that is by clicking here on theme. So with theme, if I don't like this font, okay, I could switch to a different theme. So I'll just click on this theme. Look, my font has changed, the font style. But it's actually changing more than just the font. Sometimes it's hard to tell. But in addition to changing the font, it's also changing the color scheme. Okay, so now it's all kind of pink or red. If I go to noir, it's going to be more dark. Okay. So it's changing the font, it's changing the color scheme, and it even affects sometimes the music that's played in the background, the narration or the background music, and also the animations. So that you can see the animations, I'm going to go up to the top, and you can do this at any time in Adobe Spark Video and click preview. So this is my video. You can't hear probably what is being said, but my dulcet tones of my voice are playing, and you saw the animations, right, between those slides. Okay, so that animation was selected because I picked noir. If I had picked something else, it would be a different animation. So that's another option you have when designing your narrated slideshow. You can also pick a theme, but adjust the color scheme. So maybe I like the theme Mega, but I want it to be orange, or I want it to be blue. Okay, so you can select a color, but still keep the same font, you know, that goes with that theme. We have Resize. I don't really like or use this ever, but some of your students probably will. Resize, what this is for is, I don't understand it, but there's websites like Instagram and Facebook that have, for some reason, decided that square videos are better than widescreen. Like I said, I do not understand. So some of your students may want to create square videos. And if they do, they can do that here in Resize. It just makes it so that if you show it on a TV, it won't look as good. You know, that's why I don't appreciate square very much. But widescreen, when the students are done, you could play it on a widescreen TV, and it'll fill the screen and look good, look natural. The last thing about Spark Video that I can show you before we move on is music. So this is where I can change the default background music. Spark picked one for me to use. It just picked it automatically. But I can switch to Thoughtful or to Sunlit Valley. There's all of these different themes I could pick from. And I could preview them just by clicking play. If it sounds good to me, then I leave it selected and I move on to some other aspect of building my Spark video. I can also add my own music, but this is where some students get into some copyright issues. You know, they want to make a slideshow with their favorite pop song. So we just need to, of course, teach them to follow copyright principles and to think through whether that's something they can actually do ethically. They can also lower the volume of the music. You know, sometimes a student's voice isn't loud enough to go above the music. So one way to fix that is make the music very quiet using this slider. Okay, so what I've shown you is pretty much everything you need to know to get started making Adobe Spark videos. I would just continue this process of clicking on slide after slide, editing what's on the slide. If I decide I don't need all the slides, I can click these 3 dots and delete particular slides that I'm not going to use. Yes, delete. Okay. But when I'm done with all the slides that I need, all I have to do is decide, okay, what do I want with this video? Do I want to just share it as an online video? If so, click share, and I can publish this to the internet or send it to Google Drive. Isn't that a cool new feature? I can send it to my Google Drive to be stored there. But I'll just click publish. And if student wants to be anonymous, which with FERPA, that might be important, right? To teach them because of student privacy concerns, maybe take the author off or, you know, name it student 2 or whatever, you know, whatever you want to do, but the students can change that, what's there for author if they want. And then just click create link. And this will create a web video that anyone that has that link will be able to watch the video. I'm going to X out and stop that process just because I want you to see that you can also invite people to be collaborators with you. So you can have 2 or 3 students collaborating on a project together, or 2 teachers, 2 library media specialists working together to create a great presentation. Okay, so that's nice. And then one of my favorite options is just to click a download, and it turns this, you know, online video into a real video on my computer that I could then edit in any video editing program in the world. You know, I can open it up and make changes, and I love that we have that option, even though online video is great, but to be able to download the whole thing as a video on my computer, I could burn it on CD if you still want to do that kind of thing. I just have full control over it once I've downloaded it. So really a great option. This plus sign here is just another way to share with somebody so that you can collaborate. Okay, so that's Adobe Spark Video. In the interest of time, I'm not going to show, you know, I'm not going to complete that process, but just know that you just wait 5 minutes or so and the video is ready. So before we look at the other 2 tools that you can use in Adobe Spark, and also we need to talk about how to use this with the library, Utah's Online Library, I just want to look through some of your comments and see if I've missed anything. So Sarah had a good comment here. SESC does have access to the Adobe. I believe that's what that's saying, to the Adobe Creative Cloud. Ours is through Carbon District. Elaine makes a good comment. This would be awesome for a book report presentation. And then Chris, love the themes. I can spend way too much trying to pick colors and fonts. Exactly. when saving to Drive, if you make changes in Adobe, will the Google Drive version update? I don't think so. So this is a brand new feature, and I haven't tested it fully, but I don't think it'll update the Google Drive version. That's a good question. Chris says SEDC has access as well. Nathan Wilson of SESC is creating tech tips videos with Spark. So that's awesome. Good example of an educator using Spark in a, you know, as part of his job in that case. So that's awesome. Okay, so let's look at the other two tools that you can use with Adobe Spark or in Adobe Spark. So here in my Spark homepage, I'm going to click on the plus sign, and I want to create a web page. Now, the good news is because of what I showed you with Adobe Spark Video, this one will be faster and easier to show you because there's a lot of common material. There's a lot of crossover information. So this is my web page, brand new web page. Let's say I'm a student, I'm not the teacher now, I'm a student in a language arts class, and you know, maybe my teacher wants me to create a web page and a report about my favorite book. Okay, maybe my favorite novel, and I could put in a subtitle. Okay, and that fast I've started building my web page. Now it looks very gray and kind of bleak, so let's fix that. As I browse down the page, notice that I get a pop-up, and it's encouraging me to put a photo there. So I'll click on photo, and I'll click upload photo. If there's a picture on my computer, I could upload that picture into as my background for this web page. But more often than not, I like to just go here, find free photos. Okay, just like before. I don't know, one of my favorite books as a kid was the Book of Three. I don't know. I'm sure some of you know about the Book of Three. And again, it's probably copyrighted. It's not showing up, but this is the first book in the series, the Black Cauldron. Some of you might know the Disney movie, The Black Cauldron, or maybe you've read the books. But the Book of Three is the first book in that series, and I just loved it as a kid. So anyway, I'm not finding that again because it's probably copyrighted, but I'll just again put a picture of a book. Okay, we'll just go with this one because I don't want to spend too much time with the photos. Now, once you've got that background image, look what happens. As you browse down the page, do you see how the text and the picture scroll at different rates? I love that effect. And that's hard to duplicate. Like I can't do that with, you know, Weebly, which is a competitor to this. But Spark, it's just built in, and it really makes it kind of pop and almost seem 3D. As I browse down the page, Spark page is now encouraging me to add one of these other things. I can add text. So I'll click on text. My favorite novel as a kid was The Book of Three. So I could just type this out as long as I want, right? I could have 10 paragraphs here. I could have a sentence. It doesn't matter, but you can put as much text information as you'd like. Let's say underneath that, I want to add a photo. So I can click the plus sign. Now I can add another photo. It opens the same interface. And if I want to put an actual photo of the Book of Three, you know, I can just find that photo, maybe with Bing and or Google Images, as long as I'm citing my source, etc. And once I've got that, I can click upload photo and find it. This is the cover of the book when I read it. That's what it was at the time. So anyway, now I've got an image as part of this web page. Now, you may be noticing that this is a very vertical experience. It's like title, now text, now image. If you're getting sick of that, just everything being vertically oriented, you can click this plus sign, any plus sign really, and go to a split layout. Okay, so now I can have a picture here at the left, just by clicking to add a picture, and I can have text on the right, okay, or vice versa, or maybe a video on the right. Okay, so that's, I think that's important to know, that you don't have to just add everything in a vertical layout. Okay, we don't have time to look at everything here, so I just want to point out some of my favorites. Button is fantastic. You can add a button and then say where the button takes people. So, you know, you could put UEN.org, you could put your school website, any website in the world you could put there, and that button would take the students to that place, okay? The other one I want to highlight is that glide show that I demonstrated earlier, okay? So I can upload a series of photos. I'm going to stick with the book theme here. So I picked 4 or 5 photos. I'll click save, and it stacked those photos on top of each other. Okay, now as I browse down the page, it automatically will drift from one photo into the next, into the next. It's a beautiful effect. Now you may be noticing these rectangles that are moving up and down as I browse. Those rectangles are for you to add additional content. So I can add text that kind of labels what we're seeing here. So a beautiful, beautiful scene with a book. Instead of text, maybe that's another photo, a photo within a photo, or a video to go with this photo, or a button. So this glide show option I think is just fabulous. Okay, when you're done, at any time you can click preview to see what the finished web page will look like. It's good. So there it is. This is what the official real, you know, website will look like for people. And then I can share it by getting a publish and share link. I can also collaborate, just like I showed with Adobe Spark Video. I could collaborate with another teacher on this or another student, send to Google Drive, print. But let's look at publish and share. Okay. I've got my name turned off there. To, you know, if I'm a student, that's probably important to keep that anonymous. Now notice I used a bunch of other people's photos. Spark automatically puts in photo credits if you use photos that from within Spark, right? If the ones I uploaded myself, I need to put those photo credits here. I need to add that. But the ones that I chose from within their system, it's automatically putting in photo credits. That's pretty cool. So now I click create link, and it's given me a link. This is a public website, and people will be able to see my web page. Okay, and there's all these ways to share it. So that's Adobe Spark page. There's a question in the chat. It says, do the Adobe stock photos come free with the app? In the glide show, can you make your text captions stay on longer? So 2 really good questions. So Adobe stock is a separate product that has thousands of awesome photos. Unfortunately, that's not part of our agreement with Adobe. They're not giving us access to that. And the reason why is because some of the photos in there are appropriate probably for the professional world, but would not be appropriate in schools. So that's the main reason. But it does have access to those free galleries that I told you about. The other question, can you make the glide show text captions stay on longer? So this, you don't have too much control over this. You can move it like I just did. But let's say I want that caption to stay. If I'm browsing down the page, it's just not going to stay. it moves off the page. Does that make sense? But as long as they're looking at this photo, this caption will stay there. So really good questions. Okay, I'm gonna X out of Adobe Spark page. It's constantly saving, right? It's auto saving. But the last type of project, and I'll be super quick with this. If I click the plus sign, you can go to custom size graphic, and this is what I use to make banners for my classes. But you can use it for any graphic or anything like that. I just went to standard, banner, next. And again, it should look pretty familiar, okay? This is my graphic, and I want to add something. I can add photo, text, icon. I'll just add text. It gives me a bunch of different styles for text. And I just selected this one. I can then double click on it and change it. I'll call this 9th grade language arts. Click done. I don't necessarily like the color, so I can go to color and try something a little different. Okay. You can also add images and things like that. When you're done, you can share it or download it. Okay, so pretty similar to the other things. So those are the 3 tools within Adobe Spark that you have access to. Adobe Spark Video, Adobe Spark Page, and Adobe Spark Post. I don't know why they don't just call it Post here, but they call it Graphic. So I encourage you to check these out. In addition to those 3 tools, there are tons of projects that you can make, right? If I click View All, this is where you can go to get some inspirations for projects, flyers, collages, teaser videos, Twitter posts, all sorts of projects. Now, the thing is, Spark is great, but it's just a tool. So where do I get, where do I get the inspiration for this? Where do my students get inspiration for their projects and information for their projects? Well, you all know already, I believe, about Utah's Online Library. Okay, if you go to onlinelibrary.uen.org, you can log in as a teacher, okay, with a UEN account, or students can log in with the student login and password. For this school year, the login is the word online, the password is database. And then when they get here, they can learn about whatever it is that the teacher is teaching, or whatever as you're working with students, whatever you want them to focus on, or whatever they need to research. They can go here. Some of the best places to do research in Utah's Online Library are the Gale collections. EBSCO also has lots of good information. And as a Spanish teacher, I love Culturegrams, World Book Encyclopedia in English and Spanish. So just a wonderful place to have students research, science concepts, history, current events, just about whatever it might be. Let's say I'm a history teacher, and we're studying, World War II, and we're studying, different aspects of that. Well, maybe I want to learn about President Eisenhower. Okay, so if I do a search for Dwight D. Eisenhower, okay, if I click on that, it gives me the article about him, and then it gives me just a wealth of additional in-context resources about him, magazine articles, biographies, images, etc. And like I said, I'm confident that you already know about Utah's Online Library and about Gale. So even though we are running out of time, like I say, I'm confident that you know something about this already. If you want to learn more about Utah's Online Library and the individual wonderful resources and tools inside of it, and also for that matter, if you want to learn more about Adobe Spark, you know, I would check with your regional support in your district, in your regions, because they're excellent and they know this information backwards and forwards. But on UEN's website, we also have classes on Utah's Online Library, like credit classes you can take, and also other information, including these support materials here. So battery charge, I don't know if you can hear me still, but if you can, just want to thank you for attending, and I hope you have a great rest of your conference. So please check out Adobe Spark and Utah's Online Library. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. That was awesome. I put the link to the UEN site that has the course catalog. They offer these courses and they're really good. And we do one, I think I'm doing in the spring, the Utah's Online Library too, teaching that course. So yep, lots of resources for you. And like Rob said, reach out to your district, or those of you, especially in our SCDC region, you know, I'll come out and help you with that. So thanks, Rob.
You're welcome. Thanks everybody for attending.